Hi everyone, my name's Daryl. So I'm the proud owner of this 2022 A-Liner Classic that's right behind me. And if you just purchased an A-Liner camper, or perhaps maybe you're just waiting for your A-Liner camper to come in, or maybe a pop-up camper, you might be wondering, what do I need to purchase? What items do I need to bring on that first camping trip? So we've owned it for about 8 months now, and I think I got a pretty good idea on kind of what the essential items are to bring. Some of these items you are going to need to purchase. Other items you probably already have and you just need to bring with you. And we're going to cover both in this video. Okay, so first of all, you need an appropriate tow vehicle. So I'm assuming you have a truck or something of that nature that can pull an A-Liner camper. You probably want to have something that can pull at least 3,500 pounds. That would be my recommendation. But just having the tow vehicle isn't enough. You also need to get a hitch installed on your tow vehicle, and you need 7-pin wiring. So the A-Liner camper, it comes with a 7-pin wiring connector. And so this is what connects your tow vehicle to the lights, the brake lights, the turning signals, the emergency lights, the running lights, as well as controls for the brakes. And so you need to have that 7-pin wiring on your tow vehicle. The other thing that you need is you need a hitch ball, and you need the hitch ball at the appropriate height. So my vehicle is a little bit low, it's a RAV4, and so you see I have quite a bit of raise on my hitch ball in order to have it at the appropriate height so that A-Liner runs relatively level as it's going across the highway. So the other thing that you're going to need is a brake controller. If you have a dedicated tow vehicle, it's likely that you have a brake controller with control at the front of your truck so you can actually control the strength of the brakes. But if you don't, like say you just have like a regular SUV, it likely doesn't have a brake controller built into it. So in that case, you're going to want to purchase like a wireless brake controller. This is the Takanche the Prodigy wireless brake controller. It uses Bluetooth in order to do that. Now, the only problem with this is I bought mine used, and so when I was buying my camper, I actually had to install this before I took it home. So yeah, just be prepared for that. So I just wanted to make sure that you need to make sure you have these things purchased and ready to go at a minimum before you get your camper. All right, so now that we've got the tow vehicle and all the accessories that you need in order to successfully pull an A-Liner camper, let's talk about some of the other things you need to purchase. So probably one of the first things is something to level your camper. So when you go to the campgrounds, it's not likely that you're always going to find a pad that is perfectly level, and really your A-Liner needs to be level in order for the plumbing and the refrigeration, and really in order to avoid doing any sort of damage to the frame of the A-Liner, you really need to keep it level. I use this bow tire leveler. It works really good. A lot of other folks really like the Anderson leveling system. That's a really good system and it's really fast, but you need something to level your camper. You also need to have a leveler so that you can make sure that your camper is actually level. You could buy something that you stick on your camper so that you can see if it's level, but I just carry this in my toolkit and it works really good for me. So I did a video on the bow tire leveler, so I'll put a link to that right here. I'm probably gonna get that Anderson leveling system as well, because it's relatively cheap and it's really lightweight. If I'm setting up the camper on my own, I'll probably just use the balance leveling system, but if my wife's with me, probably be a little faster using the Anderson system. Other than the leveling, you also will likely need a set of wheel chocks. So whichever side that your leveler is on, the other side you need to chock the wheels just to make sure that it doesn't move. Since we're talking about, and we're kind of messing around with the tires here, you need to make sure that you have the tools in place so that you can change your tire. So some folks maybe have AAA or something like that that they're going to use, but you might be waiting for hours for them to show up, especially with a camper. Maybe you're at a campground where it's not really easily accessible, or maybe you don't have cell connection, so it's hard to make a call. So I would make sure that you're prepared to be able to change the tire yourselves. So get the spare tire in the back out. Make sure that you can take that spare tire out. Make sure that the jack in your tow vehicle, make sure that you can actually raise the camper with that jack. Some vehicles, the jack might not work. Make sure it does work. If it doesn't work, you could probably buy a relatively inexpensive scissor jack and take that with you so you have that in place. So a couple of other nice tools that you might want to consider taking with you is maybe a can of Fix-A-Flat. So if you do have a flat, you can take care of it relatively quickly. I would recommend some sort of a torque wrench so that if you do have to change your spare tire, that you can torque it down to the factory specs. This is really handy. So this is a 12-volt inflator, and this kind of goes along with the tire pressure monitor. So before every trip and when I'm leaving the campgrounds, I always check to make sure that my tire pressure is at the appropriate pressure. And if it is low, especially if it's at the campgrounds, then I can just use this inflator real quick to go ahead and inflate the tires. All right, so when you're hitching up, you're gonna wanna make sure that you spray onto your ball some sort of grease or lubrication. I use this white lithium grease, which works really good. And I just started trying this graphite grease that goes on actually a little bit darker. And supposedly it protects maybe just a little bit more. But this will really quiet that ride as you're going down the freeway, as you hit bumps, or as you're driving through the campgrounds, because you really don't want to make a whole lot of noise. All right, so the other thing that you're going to want to make sure that you bring along is a hitch pin. Basically that goes through the hitch hole. And basically it locks it down and makes sure that it doesn't get unhitched. It shouldn't, but you know, this is good security. And a lot of people actually get secure hitch pins where they can lock it with a key. The other thing you might want to consider, this coupler that actually locks the coupler. So if you do leave your camper to go hiking or just take like a field trip or something like that, this is really nice because you can lock it down. And that way it kind of secures that coupler, so hopefully nobody takes off with your camper. So if you are planning on using Shure Power, basically connecting your A-liner camper to the campground's electrical facilities, you'll probably want to invest in a surge protector. I got this one off Amazon. It was like 25 or 30 bucks. It's just a little insurance. Campgrounds sometimes have really dirty power, and your A-liner camper has some pretty sensitive electrical components in it. And so basically you just plug the surge protector into your A-liner power cable, and then you just plug this into the electrical receptacle at the campgrounds. Now, what I use a lot of, so when I power up my A-liner at home, if I'm powering the battery, keeping it connected or doing any sort of kind of maintenance work, I have this little pigtail adapter that goes from 15 or 20 amp service basically to the A-liner. And so now I just plug that into here, into my surge protector. Okay, and so now I can just plug this directly into my electrical outlets at the house. So if you are staying at a campground that has connection to water, so basically a city water connection, you're going to want to make sure that gray water piping, that you have some sort of bucket to collect that gray water. There's closed containers that you can actually purchase that are specifically that have the connections for this. That's a closed system that some, I think, really high-end campgrounds require. But you could make your own actually for relatively cheap, or just use the bucket method. If you are connecting to city water, you're going to want to make sure that you have a water pressure regulator. So this is what A-liner gives you. Basically, it makes sure that that city water connection, that it changes to the pressure to something that your A-liner plumbing can handle. And then also make sure that you bring along the appropriate length hose so that you can connect. So when you're going camping, you kind of need to expect the unexpected. That's kind of what's happened to us. And so you probably want to bring some tools along with you. I kind of just bring my whole, just this kind of tool bag full of stuff. But, I'm just going to cover some of the essentials that I think, you need to make sure that you bring. I've got this multi-purpose screwdriver, and it works really nice. It has both a Phillips head as well as a straight head, and it has different sizes so that I can just swap them out really fast. I have a set of pliers here. Zip ties, you can't go wrong with having zip ties, duct tape, bungee cords, various lighting. So pretty much most lighting that we have just works off a battery. Rechargeable batteries, so we don't have to worry about bringing extra batteries with us. You're also going to find that there's a lot of lubrication needs on the A-liner camper. So bringing like some WD-40 or some sort of extra lubrication with you is helpful. This is the tool that A-liner gives you for the stabilizer jacks. Can't go wrong with the dustpan and a broom for cleaning out your trailer. And finally, a first aid kit. So I just find that I end up getting hurt doing something when I'm going camping. And so yeah, this is kind of invaluable. So the A-liner camper, it's got a lot of fuses. Probably the most important fuse that you know about is the one right here at the battery. So this actually happened to mine, and I know a number of other owners. So whenever I see a post on an A-liner Facebook group about problems with the 12 volt power with inside the A-liner, just always check the fuse at the battery. So if this fuse has gone bad at the battery, basically your 12 volt system won't work. A lot of people pull this fuse basically when it's in storage, so it doesn't use any of the battery. But yeah, just having kind of a multi-purpose set of fuses that you can keep stored in your A-liner, I think is helpful. A-liner does give you some extra fuses when you buy the camper, but I would just get a multi-purpose set so you always got plenty in spare. So another thing that I think is really helpful to have along with you, and it's actually just something that you create, is, it's just some sort of checklist of things that you want to make sure that you bring with you all the time when you go camping. So you can't put everything necessarily in your trailer. And so we always, and we really use this when we were tent camping a lot, but we list everything that we want to make sure that we bring. And then before we head off on our camping trip, regardless of how busy we are and how quickly we want to get on the road, I go through every single thing to make sure I bring it. Because the one time I forgot to use the checklist, I forgot to bring my pillows. So yeah, that was tough. The other thing that your checklist can include were things like the things that you need to do before you take off on the road. So making sure that you've hitched up your vehicle correctly, making sure that you've checked all around the trailer to make sure everything's stowed away appropriately, making sure you got your chains connected and you got your 7-pin connector connected, and all these different things, that you might forget. It'll become second nature at some point, but at least for those first couple trips, you want to make sure that you have it written down on everything that you need to do. So in preparation for creating this video, I did pose a question on the Facebook group that I manage on A-liners, and I just asked them, what kind of are the essential items for you to bring camping with your A-liner? And I got a lot of really good responses, and that's kind of what I used as the basis for this video. One woman, her name is Betty, and she's a very active member of the group. She actually created this really great infographic showing pictures of all the items that she brings. And so, yeah, that was really cool. So if you've just bought an A-liner or pop-up camper, or are just in the process of about ready to get one, I really hope this video gives you some help in deciding what you need to purchase and what you need to bring along on your first camping trip. So if you did find this helpful, please like this video and also consider subscribing to my channel. And I hope to see you in the next one again very soon.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.